few of us there. They dismissed, and they didn't come back until midnight. Midnight, of course.
So technically it was the next day.
Yeah. Knowing that we all had to leave and go back home.
Up to speak against their bills.
Yeah.
See, those are kind of shenanigans, at least from an ethics standpoint.
Yeah,
I
we were,
mean, if you're going to screw the public, at least do it in front of them, and not do it in private.
be honest is what it is. It's like the Obama administration and Obamacare and everything else. They get up there and they lie. We feel like we've been lied to and deceived. This is part of the UN Agenda 21, the smart growth. Are we going to lose, is Texas going to let them take our grid and put in grid 21?
The national grid.
Is this, it's called grid 20,
Yeah.
believe it or not, like map 21 and transportation. It's all moving ahead for the 21st century. Are we going to keep our grid separate from the national or the global grid they want to hook us up to?
I'll certainly fight for that because
We will fight for that.
absolutely, as chairman of the PUC, I sit on the ERCOT, that's the grid operator. I sit on the ERCOT board of directors. We have our own independent grid. I have fought to keep it independent for 10 years now. And we remain independent. We're not interconnected with the rest of the country. But in 2005, when President Bush was there, they passed the Energy Policy Act of 2005, which has language that does potentially give the federal government the right to take over our grid if they deem it to be unreliable.
Well,
Well,
making it
I hear
unreliable
language,
by
I
shutting
hear
down coal-fired
language from
plants.
that.
Exactly, which is why I've sued the EPA over that rulemaking, and we won. We beat them. The U.S. Court of Appeals, it's called the Cross-State Air Pollution Rule. I led the litigation on that. We got copies of that as
Yeah,
well.
don't we continue to receive the federal funding from the EPA?
Where? Federal funding where?
For the EPA?
Well, Wayne Smith's opened the door by his bill to where they're going to measure greenhouse gases in the state of Texas now.
No one has led the fight against the EPA more than I have, along with Greg Abbott. We've sued them 7 times. Once on the coal plant issue, once on the mercury issue, and 5 cases on greenhouse gases.
What about a petition? What about a petition drive from we, the people, that we do not want our grid attached to the national grid? Would that help in the fight?
You got a federal law right now signed by President Bush that allows the feds to come in and tell us how to keep it reliable. That's why we have to do a good job ourselves keeping it reliable. It's a jewel. It's an asset that works to the benefit of our state.
So what can we do to strengthen your ability to fight to keep this separate? I mean, what is there something that?
Well, we have to defeat these EPA cases because we get 40% of our electricity from burning coal in Texas. And if one of these rules goes into effect, the cross-state air pollution rule, we would end up having to close down some of our coal plants, which would impact our ability to keep the lights on. That is why I have fought that so diligently, and we're winning. We're winning on that. So we're going to argue that case before the U.S. Supreme Court on December the 10th.
How many have we won?
We won that one at the lower court level. We won it. Do you have the? We won that at the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. We won it on a 2-to-1 decision. The court, and that's considered the most liberal circuit court or appellate court in the country, other than the one in San Francisco. We won that case on a 2-to-1 decision. Completely vacated the EPA's ruling. Did not send it back to the lower court. Vacated it totally. The Obama EPA, undeterred, you got to give it to them, they're persistent. Persistent, has now appealed this to the U.S. Supreme Court, which has granted cert, and that's why we will be arguing this case on December the 10th.
Will you be arguing it before the Supreme Court?
I'm going to be up there with Alvin. But I can't, I'm not the Attorney General yet, but I'm the client. I'm the one who brought this case to the AG's office and said, please prosecute this on our behalf.
Do you by chance, and it may be on here, I haven't had a chance to read this, just really quick, what was the dissenting opinion of the one judge, so that we kind of get an idea of what the thinking was?
She said that the EPA had the discretion to put this law in place. Now let me back up and explain this law to you. It's very important. This was passed years ago under Bush, called the Clean Air Transport Rule. And it was designed to protect downwind states from being affected by pollution that was outside of their boundaries. It was called the Good Neighbor Rule. So Texas could not pollute Florida, for example. It then morphed into the cross-state air pollution rule, which is what it is right now. When the rule was originally published in 2010, 31 states, 31 eastern states were in the rule for year-round reductions of SO2 and NOx. Texas was not included. So this is going to make y'all think of smart meter. Texas was not included, so we didn't comment. We didn't send any comments to the EPA. When the final rule came out, we were included, and Florida had been taken out. And they had decided, I'm sure it was totally clear, they had decided by computer models that air in Illinois was being negatively affected by Dallas area power plants. And because of that, we were going to have to reduce our sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxide emissions by 40% and 33% respectively within 6 months. An impossible task. That would have required us to close down some of our coal plants in East Texas. We said no, we're not going to do that. You're being arbitrary and capricious. This is not sound science. It's not grounded in the Clean Air Act. And we won. We won at the Court of Appeals. The majority, the two in the majority said two things. One, every state is responsible first for its own air quality before it blames other states. So in this case, Illinois had not done anything to clean up their own air. It turned out that this one air quality monitor that supposedly was out of compliance because of Dallas air was across the street from a steel mill in Madison, Illinois. And in fact, later on, the steel mill unfortunately closed down, and that air quality monitor came